Alright, so good morning everyone. We're Team Sigma and we're here to present to you our analysis for our case, which is for Tom's. So Tom's is a Danish chocolate manufacturer, so it's a relatively small player on a global scale. But they're having a problem now, and that problem is the slide not working. So we're going to define the problem. For Tom's, it's how can they grow profitably their chocolate confectionery business. Now this becomes a problem because they're confronted with three aspects, which is the mature market and slowed growth rate for the Danish market. So that's the bulk of where they get their sales. We're gonna see that in a minute. The second is increasing political pressure and taxation. So there is an increased awareness in the government body to be able to clamp down on obesity and health-related illnesses. So this leads into an increase in taxation for sugar. So this leads to an increase in the direct cost for the Tom's because one of their raw materials would be sugar. Third would be reliance on few customers for majority of sales. So in Denmark, there are two large retailers that are dominating the retail industry. So this gives them large bargaining power against Tom's, thereby squeezing the margins of Tom's. So next would be looking at the what are the products, what types of chocolate products are available in the Danish market. So we have tablet, seasonal chocolate, count line bars, chocolate with toys, box assortments, and bagged self lines or soft lines. So as you can see here, this is the distribution of chocolate products for the Danish market, and every single one of them is actually decreasing. So with this is what's happening in the Danish market, but on a global scale, there is an increase in the market share for Europe and US. It's increasing by 6% annually. So there's also increase in consumption of chocolate in also the emerging markets such as China, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. So there's also a thrust and trend to be able to generate sales from occasions such as Easter, Christmas, Valentine's, and birthdays. So let's look now at trying to segment the sales of Tom's. So this is the total sales of Tom's, and then the 50% part of it, which we mentioned a while ago, is coming from Denmark, 15% from Sweden, and then 15% again from Germany. So this is why they're having a problem of thinking how to be able to grow profitably, because the majority of their sales is tied to Denmark, which is experiencing a slow market growth, increased taxation, and highly consolidated retailers. So this all affects Tom's, and of course, in a financial way. So this is the revenue trend starting from 2007 to 2011. So up here would be the net revenue. So it has had a compounded annual growth rate of only 0.10% from 2007 to 2011, and then this marks and exemplifies the slowdown of the growth rate in the Danish market. So second line would be the cost of goods sold. So this would be the raw materials such as the cacao beans. So this is another problem that they're having because the raw material for the cacao beans is very volatile in terms of price. So as you can see here, it has fluctuated in a significantly large manner. So it has a standard deviation of 56. So this is in terms of million DKK. So the third line would be, the bottom here would be the sales and distribution. So it has a compounded annual growth rate of 3.15%, markedly higher than the compounded annual growth rate of the sales. So this exemplifies the bargaining power that the retailers have in charging higher costs Toms to be able to distribute the products of Toms. So this is a picture of the cash flow for Toms, and I would like to focus on three lines here, which is the receivables, the payables, and the other debt. So starting 2009, there has been a change in the dynamics in the customer dynamics. So there would be the trade receivables have been positive since 2008 and to 2009, but then again it turned negative in 2010. So this means that the customers, which is the retailers, are taking more time to pay to Toms. So this affects directly the trade payables. So in 2009, the trade payables have been negative. So this means that Toms has been very pleasant to its suppliers, paying it earlier than it should. And then by 2010, it has been paying it less. So this means that the squeezing that the retailer does in the receivable side is also forces Toms to be able to squeeze as well the supplier on the upstream side. So this all changes. So this affects the overall cash conversion cycle of the company. So it also marks that in 2010 it needed to be able to cover its cash shortfalls because the operating cash flow from operating activities cannot meet anymore the demands for the investing activities, so and the working capital requirements. So it has resorted to financing its shortfall through short-term debt. So looking into further how the company is generating its cash flow from the operations, we'll be looking to how the supply chain is manufactured and operated. So for that, I'll give you Ray.
Okay, thank you. So for the chocolate supply chain, it's not just a local supply chain, it's a global value supply chain. And for that, we've done a SIPOC analysis. And for the SIPOC analysis, we have the suppliers. And coming from the suppliers would be the inputs, which would eventually be processed and manufactured and will create an output. And those output would eventually be sold to the customers. Now for the suppliers, the main supplier would be the small simple farms, and in the case of Tom, it would be the small simple farms from Ghana, and they are groups and partnerships of producers, and the three main producers are the Armajaro, the Source Trust, and the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana. Now, for the inputs, it would not be only the cocoa beans, but it would be also the machines and also the labor sector coming from Denmark mostly for the manufacturing phase, and also for Poland in the packaging phase. And then for the processing phase, the main and most important process would be the couverture, in which the beans are roasted at a specific temperature so that it reaches a certain type of quality and consistency in terms of texture. And we also have the in-house processing steps such as the tempering and the moldering. The molding phase actually creates the shape of the chocolate, in which Tom's is well known for, and the processes are mostly in Denmark, and the output would be packaged in Poland, and the output would be in terms of the three main market segments that the group is servicing, which are the ultra premium market, the mass premium, and the mass, which I'll discuss further on later. And aside from the chocolates, they also have other sugar confectionery products which are eventually sold to the customers. And geographically, the three main countries where the products are sold are Denmark, Sweden, and Germany. Now, this is the pyramid for the four market segments for the chocolate industry. So we have the premium market, which is on the top of the triangle of the pyramid, and this one has the lowest volume as it's on the top of the pyramid. So this one has the lowest volume because it's for the richest segment, and for the bottom of the pyramid, it's for the ones with the lowest income group, and it would be the mass segment. We also have the mass premium for the second lowest side of the pyramid, and we also have the premium segment. So most of the brands of Tom's is on the mass premium side, and the brands are Tom's Extra, Anton Berg, Hatch, and the Theodora. And for the mass segment, it would be the Tom's and also the Gale and Jensen. We don't have any brand for the premium segment, but we have one brand for the ultra premium segment, which caters to the richest segment. Now for the marketing campaign, we're going to discuss first about the mass segment. So again, we have two brands, and what they are going to do is to increase the market share in the European and the US market, as there's lots of growth that will be achieved in the next 5 years in those segments and geographical sectors. And for the Asian market, since it's also on the rise, they can move the segment from the mass segment to the mass premium side, especially in Southeast Asia and in the East Asia, specifically in China too. Another thing that they can do is to improve the mass premium side, wherein the Tom's Extra is currently catering to the female segment, particularly at the plus 30 years age group. So what they can do is to make it a unisex product for both the male and the female sector. And another brand that they can change in the mass premium in terms of market segment is the Hack. So what they can do is to shift the brand to a more healthy look and branding and packaging, and they can use less sugar and less fats so that they can further validate their claims. And it will target the health-conscious individuals, as the governments right now are more aware of the benefits of having health products. And now Therese is going to talk about the changes in the financials and the financial projections as we have changes in the market segments.
Thanks, Ray. So now what we're going to be looking at is how these marketing efforts will translate into the financial projections. So here we have the graph of how we believe that these marketing efforts will translate into the numbers. Firstly, we see that right now, since we have no marketing efforts yet primarily focused in Denmark, we believe that it will maintain its growth rate at 3% year on year. So it's a straight line coming from 2011 until 2016. The major changes from these marketing efforts will be translated in the other countries such as Sweden, Germany, other EU countries, and of course Asia. So here we see for Germany, for instance, you can see that it's a more curved growth. So we expect it to actually grow from 2014 to 2015 to 2016 at a higher rate. Primarily, we also wanted to focus on the Far Asia and Americas because prior to these marketing efforts, we see that Tom's only has 1% in terms of the Far East Asia and Americas market. So now how does it look like in the earnings before income, interest and taxes? So we can see that after the year after when we established the marketing efforts, we can see a slight dip in 2012, but after 2012, you can see the actual rise of it. So these numbers are based on optimistic, normal, and pessimistic numbers. So optimally, we want it to be on the optimistic side, which is growing at nearly 250 million earnings before interest and taxes. So it's only on 2012 where we see a net loss, but hopefully we can already take back that by 2030. So how will it look like in Tom's market shares? So prior to these marketing efforts, we see that 50% of Tom's sales will be coming from Denmark. But after these marketing efforts, where they shift away from Denmark into the other EU countries, we see that the Denmark share of sales for Tom's will be decreased by 10%. It will be then allocated to the other countries such as Sweden, Germany, and Far East Asia and other Americas countries. So the reason for this is that we see that because of different regulations set by the Danish government, as well as the changing tastes of the Danish population, we see that they're not actually growing and the market has become saturated. However, as John mentioned earlier, the global market is actually increasing 5% annually and 6% for Europe and US. So we want Tom's to actually tap into those markets and shift slightly away from Denmark. We're not necessarily saying that they should completely forget about Denmark because the majority of their sales are still coming from Denmark. But realistically, it is best for them to also expand to other regions. So given that, what is our long-term solution for Tom's? So given that UN has set up the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, there are 17 goals that they intend to have transform the world. We believe that Tom should also align their long-term strategy according to these goals. And there are 4 goals that we want them to particularly focus on, which are good health and well-being, industry innovation and infrastructure, creating sustainable communities and cities, and have responsible consumption and production. And for good health and well-being, of course, part of their mission should be promoting good health and well-being in their own organization, in their own community. So if they focus their products on creating chocolates that are healthier, that are not as sickeningly sweet, maybe they can also promote good health and well-being. Secondly, even though they are focused primarily as a chocolatier, maybe they can also create a culture of innovation in their own respective organization by finding out different and innovative ways to contribute to society with their product. Thirdly, when creating sustainable cities and communities, especially with their supply chain, as Ray mentioned earlier, their suppliers are from Africa, Indonesia, maybe, and they're creating this actually very nice sustainability with the farmers there. So maybe they can also outsource from Nigeria, Cameroon, and Brazil to increase transparency, increase well-being amongst these population. And finally, we also want Tom's to also focus on consuming and producing responsibly in terms of their whole value chain, their whole supply chain. From the suppliers, we want them to be responsible in harvesting cacao beans, perhaps not to over-harvest or over-plant the cacao not in order not to destroy the land. And finally, maybe they can also create environment-friendly packaging